Welcome to your quick guide to the universal language of DISC. My name is Karen McCabe, and I look forward to helping you discover, pun intended, how the language of DISC can help enhance your relationships professionally and personally. As it relates to business, check out this quote. To be successful in business today, it's not enough to be talented and to have great technical skills. You must master the art of interpersonal relationships. If you have the best products, terrific service, you have all the skills and technical know-how, it's worth nothing if you don't build strong customer relationships. And that's what this tutorial is all about. Why haven't we solved our communication problems? It's said that people do business with people they know, like, and trust. People we like are usually people who are most like us. The thing is, not everybody is like us, and therefore you may have conflict such as this lady and gentleman have in the picture here. I'm sure you can relate to it in some way, shape, or fashion. And when there's conflict, it's usually the result of miscommunication. Our message and how we communicate with other people is split into three specific areas. 55% of the message is perceived through our gestures, 38% through our tone of voice, and 7%, yes, only 7% are the words that we use. And what that means is if your gestures or tone of voice don't agree with your words, people will believe what you do before they believe what you say. If I wanted you to have a nice day, and I did it in my best New York accent, it may come across like this: have a nice day. My words and my tone don't necessarily match. And what are you going to believe first? Chances are it's that tone, and you're going to be taken a little back by it. And that's what causes conflict, miscommunication, and lost business opportunities. This is where DISC comes into play. DISC measures observable behavior and emotions. It's the language of observable behavior. It measures the how of your life, how you walk, how you talk, how you drive. It's the language of people watching. You can sit in a coffee shop and watch people come in and out and be able to read and know all four factors of a person's behavioral design just through observing or listening. It's that easy, and if you can master the language of DISC, you're going to be able to connect with your clients, your customers, better than ever before. A word of caution that behaviors isn't a measure of your intelligence, nor does it address what motivates you or why you do the things that you do. It doesn't touch on your skills, experience, education, or training. What you see is what you get. That's what DISC behaviors is all about, because that's how we're building relationships, isn't it? It's based on our interaction, and that's very observable. The four dimensions of normal behavior using DISC theory are as such. D stands for dominance, and it answers the question how you handle problems and challenges. I, influence, how you handle situations involving people and contacts. S, steadiness, how you handle pace and consistency. C, compliance, how you react to procedures and constraints. Problems, people, pace, procedures. Every one of us is made up of a combination of all four of these factors and how they are measured. And that's what's going to determine our unique behavioral design. Some PowerPoints of behavior that it's important to note here. DISC is that doorway to communication. If I'm communicating the same way that you are, it's amazing how good our relationship is going to be. The uniqueness of each person, however, extends far beyond the DISC model. Therefore, your DISC style isn't a personality test. all it's measuring is one specific area, and that is your behavior. Next, the use of a behavioral model is to create win-win relationships. In no means is it designed to manipulate, pigeonhole, or label a person. Just because somebody has a high D style, that doesn't make them all things dominant. Every person has the potential to be a winner. We all win in different ways, and therefore it's important to know that one behavioral design is not better than another. The D isn't any better than the I, the S isn't any better than the C. In fact, a good, effective team is going to have players that represent all four of the behavioral styles, because each D, I, S, and C brings something different to the party, and it creates a wonderful, wonderful blend that's going to give you tremendous business results. Finally, your behavior design is the combination of the highs and the lows of all four factors. And this is what makes our assessment tool different from some of the other DISC assessment tools out there. Not all DISC assessments are created the same. And the DISC assessment you took is probably the best in the market today, because not only does it measure the highs and the lows of all four factors, but it also looks at what we will explore later, our adapted style and our natural style. So hold that thought for later on. Now let's take a look a little deeply into each of the four styles and give you some more information to go with. So D, dominance, again, how you handle problems and challenges. And when we look at somebody's behavioral makeup, we're going to say if you look at the scale on the left, anything here in the middle, that's called the energy line, the midpoint. Anything above the midpoint is considered high. Anything below the midpoint is considered low. So someone with high D tendencies may be viewed as responsible. If that tendency is even stronger, decisive, ambitious, driving, to the extent demanding. So someone with high D tendencies, they're going to be very active and aggressive in gaining results. They'll go directly at the problem with little or no fear. And I use a couple of people who I think you'll recognize to reinforce the point of a high D behavioral style. Donald Trump, certainly demanding, egocentric, very high D. Lucy, also high D, but maybe not as strong as Mr. Trump's. Let's look at low D tendencies. Some of the descriptors: conservative, cooperative, agreeable, as you move down that list. Low D, the tendency is to go at a problem with a calculated, organized, well thought out approach to gaining results. Think about it this way: high D, ready, fire, aim. Low D, ready, aim, fire. Now let's look at I, influencing, how you interact with others. Someone with high I tendencies, look at these descriptors: sociable, demonstrative, enthusiastic, magnetic, inspiring. High Ds, they're the life of the party. Everybody gravitates to the high D. They have what we call contactability. They can be very outgoing, verbally persuasive, and very optimistic. Snoopy, he's high D in my books. And think of Oprah Winfrey. You don't think she's got contactability? She's got contactability out the wazoo. And so that's where your influencers come into play. Low I, simply the tendency is to be more reserved rather than outgoing. And those with low I tendencies enter relationships and situations with a more cautious approach. High Is never met someone they didn't like. Low Is, I need to get to know you before I can trust you. And you see some of the words depicted on the left side: factual, logical, undemonstrative. High Is use a lot of gestures. Low Is, more reserved, not as many big, grand gestures. Steadiness, how you handle pace and consistency. So the high S, think about it, they are resistant to change. They like a slower pace. Predictable, steady. S's love job security. They're your most loyal, and they also happen to be the best listeners. Their tendency, they want a more structured, predictable environment, and they want the boundaries clearly defined. High S's want a job description, or they want to be clear on what your expectations are of them. Low S, obviously the opposite. They prefer an unstructured, undefined environment with a great deal of freedom to operate. They're variety oriented. They love change. Low S, it's all about non-routine. High S, love routine. C, compliance, how you react to procedures and constraints. So those with high C tendencies, they are your quality assurance people. They want to make sure things are done by the rules and that people are compliant in following the rules. They are very aware of the effects if you don't follow the rules or if you don't follow the procedure. And here I've got the guy from CSI as well as Schroeder. You know, when you're playing a piano, those notes need to be precise, especially if you're playing somebody else's music. Low C, on the other hand, look at those descriptors. Independent, self-willed, opinionated, unsystematic. High C's love the systems, low C's not so much. Their tendency is to follow their own rules, do it their own way, and things will get done. Think about an effective business team and how the high D is going to be that visionary who sets the direction. The high I is going to be that motivator who keeps everybody positive and also can verbally persuade everybody to get the job done. The S's are your loyal worker bees. They're going to come up with the process to get the job done. And your high C's are going to make sure that that process is correct and accurate. So each behavioral style brings something unique and important to getting the job done. Now let's talk about reading the graphs. Each of you in your report, you have a graph that's going to, actually it's two graphs, and one is your natural style, the other is your adapted style. And this is one of the uniquenesses of the assessments from TTI Success Insights. Natural style, over on the right, this is the real you. It is the least changeable. It's as if it's how you act when the lights are off, when you're tired. It's just your gut instinct. That's your natural style. Your adapted style, on the other hand, is your game face. Have you ever met somebody who, when you're working with them, they act one way, and then when you see them socially, they're a completely different person, almost like Jekyll and Hyde? Well, what you're seeing is socially their natural style, but at work it's their game face. It's a behavioral style they believe they need to display on the job. And it's the style that responds to the environment. That's why the style is most changeable from the one situation to the next. And it's our battery pack. In other words, what that means is if you get tired or your battery starts running on fumes, all of a sudden that nice guy at work is going to turn into their natural style, which will be totally different, the Jekyll and Hyde. The other thing about the graphs, and we've talked about in the descriptors, the fact that you have kind of a midpoint line at the 50 percentile marker. And we call this the energy line. And so when we measure the results from your assessment in each of the D, I, S, or C, those roles or scores go on the high side or on the low side. And the stronger or the farther away they are from the energy line, the stronger that tendency is going to be. If they're close to the energy line, like the I and the S are here, you may not notice some of that contactability we talked about, or the S may not be as resistant to change or like a lot of change because they're so close together. Let's look at this in a different way as far as understanding the high and low scores. Here I am with a couple of my friends, and we're all in the 5'2", which is me, to 5'5", 5'6" range. But you can't really notice any differences in our height because we all seem about the same. And so that equates to us being around kind of the energy line here in the 50 percentile. But now let's look at a picture of me with my 7'8" friend George Bell, former player of the Harlem Globetrotters. Obviously, you take note of George's height. The same could be said of someone who perhaps their C was up here in the 95 percentile. All of a sudden, that high C of being accurate and precise is going to be much more pronounced because it is so different from the norm. And that's what we mean by measuring the highs and lows and the strength of those tendencies the farther away you get from this energy line. As you review your report, and I hope after this tutorial you go back to your report and read it again, and because the report has so much information that's going to help you as an individual in your job and also help you in your personal life. Checklists for communicating, how you want to be communicated with, what's your value to the organization. Even if you own your own business, what do you bring to the party? What behavioral factor are you lacking that if you encounter someone who's got that behavioral factor, how do you need to adapt? So all of this information is extremely valuable in helping you not only to help to understand yourself and your unique behavioral style, but also how you can adapt to other people. Speaking of adapting, that's one word I want you to remember out of this tutorial, because the key to effective communication, the key that is going to help you to master the art of interpersonal relationships is adapting. And how you adapt, first being able to recognize their style. Be observant. People read those 4 factors: how they handle problems and challenges, how they interact with others, how they handle pace and consistency, and how they deal with procedures. Problems, people, pace, procedures. Look at their, or listen to their tone of voice and volume and match it. Match their pace. Are they speaking quickly or speaking slowly? Are their gestures or body language over the top or more reserved? If you match it, all of a sudden you're like being like them, which opens their door of communication with you. If you anticipate and align with their needs, doing the above, you've just made yourself a new customer, new client, or just made another sale. The benefits to learning the DISC language, I hope you've seen them throughout this tutorial. You're going to gain commitment and cooperation more so than ever before, because you'll be able to minimize any element of miscommunication. You'll build effective teams. I already mentioned that an effective team is going to have high D's, I's, S's, and C's all part of the same team. Knowledge of the DISC language will help to resolve and prevent conflict. It's going to enable you to gain credibility or additional influence. It will allow you to improve productivity because you're going to be able to communicate what you need with other people, and it's amazing how much more work you'll be able to get done. And ultimately, you're going to increase sales, close more deals, get more clients. You know, the most successful people have a good understanding of themselves and can adapt to their environment. Truer words have never been said. That if you can learn about yourself, you're willing to go there and accept who you are, and more importantly, recognize and appreciate the fact that there are people who are different from you, and rather than walking away from them, you're going to embrace their differences and adapt to their communication style, great things can happen. I hope this tutorial has been helpful in helping you to discover, pun intended, yourself and learning a new language that is going to help you to grow your business. Thanks for listening.